And reactions to Trump's recent visit to Arlington National Cemetery has resulted in a Central Illinois nonprofit for military families receiving lots of messages. Former President Donald Trump's campaign staff had an altercation with an Arlington National Cemetery official, a story which has gained national attention. Trump and his campaign team were attending a wreath-laying ceremony to honor military service members who were killed during the Afghanistan war withdrawal. America's Gold Star Families is a local non-for-profit organization created to provide help to those grieving military loss. They said they have been receiving lots of emails and phone calls about the incident. The Peoria-based organization wants to make it clear they did not participate with the event at Arlington in any way. In a statement, America's Gold Star Families Executive Director Patty Latch said that the organization expresses sympathy for those who experience pain from this event and clarifying that they are not involved in any